In this video, matrices of a linear transformation on two different bases are proved to be similar. That is, given a linear transformation and two different bases, we will have two different matrices. What we can say about those two matrices is that they are similar. So that is proved in this theorem 6.3.7, which states that if V is n-dimensional over F and T is a member of A of A, that is T is a linear transformation which has the matrix M1 of T in the basis V1 etc. Vn and the matrix M2 of T in the basis W1 etc. Wn over F, then there is an element C which is an n cross n matrix over F such that M2 of T is C, M1 of T, C inverse, where C is the matrix of the transformation which takes the basis elements V1 etc. Vn to W1 etc. Wn. So that is simply given as the image of Vi under S is Wi. I range from 1 to n. So for the proof, we first consider V to be the given n-dimensional vector space and M1 of T to be this matrix with entries Aij's of order n cross n, because domain codomain the same n-dimensional vector space we have. So we have the matrix to be of order n cross n, and Vi of that is the image of Vi under T is summation j ranging from 1 to n Aij Vj, because these are the entries. This is how we have the relation, and M2 of T is taken as the matrix with the entries Bij's, where the image of Wi and T is given by summation j ranging from 1 to n of Bij Wj. In both the cases, your I ranges from 1 to n. We shall name them as equation 1 and equation 2 respectively. And the condition that S takes Vi's to Wi's, so that is named as equation 3. Now we claim that this S is invertible. So only then we can talk about this C inverse V. This C will be taken as matrix of this transformation. So only if S is proved to be an invertible transformation can we talk about our C inverse. So that is the reason why we want to claim that our S is invertible. So for proving this, we first prove that S is onto. So once we have S to be onto by theorem 6.1.14, which is established earlier, that we can have our S to be invertible. So we first prove that S is onto. So for which we shall consider any arbitrary element in the codomain as say some W. Then W1 etc. Wn being a basis of V, this W can be uniquely written as the linear combination of those basis elements. And these Wi stands for Vis. So W1 replaced by V1, the image of V1 under S, and W2 is replaced by the image of V2 under S, and so on. Wn is replaced by the image of Vn under S. Now because S is a homomorphism, we have this one being rewritten in this way, that is the image of alpha 1 v1 plus and so on alpha n vn of S, which we can take as, because it's a linear combination of the basis elements v1 etc. vn and v. For convenience sake, it can be taken as some small v. So for a given W in the codomain, there exists one v in the domain such that the image of V under S is W. So that shows that our S is onto. So S is invertible by this theorem 6.1.14, which states that if V is finite dimensional over F, then T in A of V is regular if only if T maps V onto V. So this proves the claim. So now we'll go to the main proof. We'll consider this equation 2, so which is given by this, the image of Wi under T is equal to summation j ranging from 1 to n Bij Wj. So this we had already mentioned, and that is what we have considered again. And this Wi is replaced by the image of Vi under S. So Vis of T we have, and this Wj is replaced by we have this to be Vjs. This is Vj, and so Vist we have this one as such, and S is a linear transformation. So we have summation Bij Vj. And so because S is invertible, we can apply S inverse on both sides. So this is what we get. So this is nothing but the matrix of the transformation SDS inverse with the entries, the matrix with entries Bij. But the matrix with the entries Bij is already taken to be M2 of t. So this we have as M2 of t. So M1 of SDS inverse is equal to M2 of t we have. And we know from the previous video that matrix of the composition of mappings is product of the matrices. So we have M1 of S, M1 of T, M1 of S inverse. And again, when we consider this, which is proved in one of the results in the earlier video, that this is M1 of S, the whole inverse. So by taking M1 of S as some C, we see that M2 of T is equal to C, M1 of T, C inverse. So that shows that M1 of T and M2 of T are similar. Now we just have in a picture that what we had in the previous theorem, that suppose we are given transformation T, and in the basis V1 etc. Vn we have matrix of T, we have named that as M1 of T, and M2 of T is the matrix of the transformation in the basis W1 etc. Wn. So we are given M1 of T and M2 of T. So we have M2 of T, the relation between these two to be M2 of T is equal to C M1 of T, C inverse, where C is the matrix of S, which takes the basis elements Vi's to basis elements Wi. So this is what we had in the previous theorem, that matrices of a linear transformation on two different bases are similar. Now we will have an illustration for this theorem. We shall consider a transformation T from R2 to R2 defined this way: ordered pair xy taken to the ordered pair 2x plus 3y in the first component and 4x minus 5y. And we should take the basis elements to be 1, 0 and 0, 1, and here any other basis. So W1 which is 1, 0, W2 1, 1. So M1 of T and M2 of T in the two given bases are similar. So that is what we are trying to prove in this case. So we shall compute M2 of T. The computation of this is known from the previous video, but again for this transformation we will have an explanation. So W1 of T, that is the image of W1 under T, is a member in the codomain. So we have a codomain having W1, W2 as bases. So this is written as uniquely alpha 11 W1 plus alpha 12 W2. And W1 stands for 1, 0, and the effect of 1, 0, the effect of T on this 1, 0 ordered pair 1, 0 is this. So we have, and this is what we have, 2, 4, and that 2 and 4 should be written in terms of these two basis elements, that is W1, W2. See, if you want to write the matrix of T with respect to this, means here W1, W2, and here also it should be W1, W2, so that whatever may be the coefficient that we have, they will form the first row, second row entries of the corresponding matrix. So we have this one, we have 1, 0, and sorry, this one, and 1, 1 we have. And so this simplification gives us this. So equating the first component and then equating the second component, these two equations, solving them, we get the first row entries as minus 2, 4, and W2, the image of W2 and T, again and W2 being ordered pair 1, 1, we have to replace this by 1, 1, so that we have 5 minus 1. And so that is written as alpha 2, 1 plus alpha 2, 2, comma alpha 2, 2. So again equating the first components and first component of both sides, and similarly the second component, we have these two equations. Solving them, we get the other two values, that is the other two entries in the second row. So we have alpha 1, 1 to be minus 2, 4, and alpha 2, 1 to be 6 and minus 1. Now the computation of M1 of T in the standard basis is very simple. So we have 2, 4, 3 and minus 5, because we have the matrix of T in the basis, the standard basis. And when we replace V1, that is 1 0, X stands for 1 and this one stands for 0. So 2 comma 4 that we have, and which we can write as 2V1 plus 4 V2. So we have the first row entries to be 2 and 4, and the same way for the second also we can compute, and we get that as 3 and minus 5. The second row with the entries as this. So if we name the first one as B, name the second matrix as A, then by the previous theorem, we have to have these two to be similar matrices. So when we say that those two are similar matrices, we'll have to be able to write M2 of S to be C, M1 of M2 of T is C, M1 of T C inverse. So that is the main thing that we need to have an illustration for this theorem. So for which we'll have to find out what that C is, which is the matrix of the transformation which takes VI's to WI's. So we consider W1 which is V1S and W2 which is V2S. So we compute this. So we have 1 0. When we see when we have this V1S, W1 is as such 1 0, which we can write as 1 into V1 plus 0 into V2, and W2 is nothing but the image of V2 under S, and W2 is actually 1 comma 1. So we have this. So corresponding matrix will have the first row entries as 1 0, second row entries as minus 1 0. Sorry, 1 and 1, 1 0, and this is 1 and minus 1. We can easily compute the inverse of this. Determinant is 1, and we'll have to interchange these two and put negative sign to these two. So C inverse we have got, and when we have, so this is the reason for this step. This is the reason for this step, and now we compute our C inverse. So that on computation gives minus 2, 4, 6 and minus 1. So that is nothing but our matrix B, which we had in the previous slide. So B is this minus 2, 4, 6, minus 1. Minus 2, 4, 6, minus 1. So we have the illustration for the theorem, second theorem in this section, and we will have one more illustration where instead of this R2, R3 and all, we will be considering the vector space of all polynomials over F. So let us have the next one with the help of, again it is also an illustration for the same theorem, but from the collection, this vector space of all polynomials of degree less than 3 over F. So let T from V to V be defined as f of x is equal to f of x plus 1. X, wherever it sees x, it will replace it by x plus 1. So that is the job that we have for this transformation T, and we'll consider two different bases of capital B. One is 1x, x square, the other one is 1 plus x, 1 plus x square. Now if you want to compute the matrix of T in the basis V1, V2, V3, we have the image of V1 and T is the image of 1 under T, and that is rewritten as 1 into V1 plus 0 into V2 plus 0 into V3. And similarly V2 of T is we have V2 to be x, so xtx means 1 plus x we'll have, and so if we want to write that in terms of V1, V2, V3, this is what we have. And V3 of, the image of V3 under T, V3 is x square. So when we consider this image of x square under T, it is replaced wherever it sees x, it will replace it by 1 plus x. So we have that to be 1 plus x the whole square. Now expanding that out, we get 1 plus 2x plus x squared. And they are, see, in the standard basis means we can have it as directly. So the M1 of T is 1 0 0, 1 1 0 and 1 2 1. So this is our matrix A. Now coming to the second one, we have wherever it sees x, W2 is 1 plus x. Wherever it sees x, it will replace it by 1 plus x. So that is how our T is defined. And case of W3 also, wherever it sees X, it will replace that by 1 plus X. So that is the job of our T. So now coming to this one, it is in the standard form only. So 1 into W1, 1 into W2, 0 into W3. But when we consider this is what we have, 1 plus 2x plus x square. It is not, we cannot directly write that as something into W1, something into W2 plus something into W3. So we'll have to adjust the terms in such a way that we can write that as some scalar times W1 plus some scalar times W2 plus some scalar times W3. So for that, this is done. That is, we are adding and subtracting. We have this 2 as such. For this, we need to have 1 plus x. So we add and subtract 1 to that. And then here x square that we have, we need to have 1 plus x square. So we add and subtract 1 to that. And now we will rearrange the terms so that we can have the linear combination, that W3 T to be linear combination of W1, W2, W3. So here we have, this is 2 minus 2 from here, and here we are left with minus 1. So minus 1 into 1, that 1 is replaced by W1. And the second one, 2 into x plus 1. X plus 1 or 1 plus x is nothing but W2. So you get 2 into W2. And then we have 1 plus x square. This is already accounted. 1 plus x square is W3. So we have this. So when we consider the matrix, the first row will be 1, 0, 0. Second row will be 1, 1, 0. And the third row is minus 1, 2, 1. So this is our matrix B. So we have got, for the same transformation, in 2 different bases, 2 different matrices. Now our job is to find the matrix C, so that we will have our B to be CA, C inverse. So for which, how do we compute that C? We know pretty well that our C is the matrix of S, which takes the basis elements VI's to the basis elements WI's. Here we know both W1, V1, W2, V2, W3, V3. So we have W1, which is 1, that's written, and this V and the image of V1 under S is retained as such. So we are writing V1S in terms of V1 again, but that is nothing but W1. So V1, image of V1 under S is, why it should be written in this way? Because to get the matrix of S, whatever basis elements that we have here, we have to have the same basis elements here. Only then the matrix of S can be written. So for that, we are considering from the theorem that it should be W1, it should be W2, it should be W3. So that is rewritten in terms of V1, V2, V3. We don't want it again in terms of W1. That is known to us already. We don't want it in terms of W1, W2, W3. We want them in terms of V1, V2, V3 only. So we have this to be 1 into V1 plus 1 into V2 plus 0 into V3, because there is no x square term. And coming to this, you don't have any x term, so here 0 comes. So the corresponding matrix, when we write, it will be 1, 0, 0, 1, 1, 0, and then 1, 0, 1. So we can easily compute the inverse of this matrix. On computation, we get C inverse to be this matrix. Now we will consider C as C inverse. The matrix C is known, and matrix C inverse is also known. A is the matrix we have already written in the previous slide. We have this. A is this matrix. C, A, C inverse. So 1, 0, 0, 1, 1, 0, 1, 2, 1. So that is what we have, and the C inverse is written, and then multiplying these two matrices we get this, and then the resultant is multiplied with the last one, the third matrix, and we get this. Multiplying these two we get this, which is nothing but the B, what we had already in the previous line. The B is the same matrix. So it is another illustration, but from the vector space of all polynomials over F. Now we will have an application of this theorem. In what way it can be applied? Say if we are given m1 of t, if we want to find m2 of t, then we can make use of this. That is, you are not given transformations. If you are given the transformation and basis, we know pretty well how to find the matrix of t. But here the transformation is not given. Here the transformation is not given. We are given only the matrix, but that matrix is in the standard basis. So that is the advantage. And the matrix is given in the standard basis. So M1 of t is given. Then we are asked to find M2 of t, for which we are given the basis elements W1, W2, W3. So this is the problem, that is, if V is a collection of all ordered 3 tuples, and this is the matrix of T in the basis, standard basis, then our job is to find the matrix of T in another basis. That is, they are given by this W1, W2, W3. See, one way of doing this problem is, given the matrix, we obtain the transformation, and having got the transformation and a basis, we can get the matrix. That is one way. But we want to apply this theorem 6.3.7, so which states that M2 of t is C, M1 of t C inverse. So for which we need to compute what this C is, which is the matrix of S, which takes the basis elements Bi's to the basis elements Wi. Right. Now we will consider here 1, 2 and 3 elements are there in the basis. So we have to consider W1, which is image of V1 under S. So V1S, which is the order triplet 1, 1, 1, which we can write as 1 into V1 plus 1 into V2 plus 1 into V3. So we have in the same way for the next one 0, 1, 1 we have, and that is rewritten in this way, and similarly the last one is this. So the matrix corresponds, see that whatever basis that we have, the same basis should come here. Only then the coefficients, when we consider as first, second and third rows, we will get the matrix C. So here we have obtained the matrix 1, 1, 1, 0, 1, 1 and 0, 0, 1. So we can easily compute C inverse, and this is what we get as our C inverse. Now we'll have to consider C M1 of t C inverse. Our job is to find M2 of t. So C is known, M1 of t given, and C inverse obtained already. We'll have to multiply them out and we get this. So this is the matrix of T. So it's an application of the theorem. So with this section gets over.